GC, or Global Environment Center, is a Malaysian non-profit organization which was established in 1998, about 20 years ago. Our focus is to protect, safeguard the global environment. We are working currently in about 10 countries, most of the ASEAN member states, but also China.
GC is the NGO that do the talk. We meant what we are doing, and we are doing what we say.
We don't just work on one project with one partner. We try to work with communities, government and private sector together. We form coalitions or partnerships between these different stakeholders. We don't make reports because only with practical results can we bring different stakeholders to be active, engaged.
Through the civic science concept or approach, where the key focus is empowerment and engagement of the stakeholders, especially the local community.
We believe we won't be there forever. After we implement that activity, we need someone to carry forward.
For the last 18 years, GC through the River Care program have worked actively on river and water resource protection and also conservation in Malaysia. GC's River Care program is about integrated river basin management program. It focuses on the sustainable river management benefiting all, including the environment.
Peatlands are a very key ecosystem, particularly in the ASEAN region, and we're working with the 10 ASEAN member states to manage the peatland areas and to prevent fire and transboundary haze.
Forest and coastal programs promotes and support the sustainable management of the forest and wetland ecosystem, as well as rehabilitation the degraded site and organizing community-based, school student-based awareness programs in order to protect and conserve the priceless biodiversity and mitigate climate change. The rehabilitation of North Selangor Peatland Forest through community-based action projects mainly promote and emphasize on the sustainable management and wise use of the forest and surrounding areas to sustain the local needs.
The last program is the outreach and partnership program, where we're working with partners all over the world to outreach and engage and get communities and other stakeholders to safeguard the global environment.
GC will never take up any project on event base or on an economic base. It's all about the people and environment.
If we heal our earth, we will heal ourselves.
We managed to explain and to some extent empower them what are the role they can play and how to reconnect them to the nature.
We were brought into this world not to exploit it, but to act as the guardians of this planet. Good afternoon. I'm Faisal Parish, Director of the Global Environment Center. Welcome to the session on peatlands and climate change mitigation, particularly focused on fire prevention and monitoring. Let me share the screen. So this afternoon's session will last just under 2 hours and will focus on peatlands and climate change mitigation. It's organized by the Global Environment Center, a member of the Malaysian Climate Change Group, in association with IGEM 2020. It's supported by the International Fund for Agriculture Development. So during the session today, we'll be bringing together different stakeholders to share their role and experience in managing peatlands sustainably and in preventing haze in the ASEAN region. And we'll have a particular focus on different approaches, technologies, and techniques at different levels to address peatland fire prevention and monitoring. So the program will start off with my introduction, and then we will have 3 speakers talking on national effort on protecting peatland ecosystem and mitigating peatland degradation through multi-stakeholder engagement in undertaking prevention measures, by Matusita Darus from the Department of Environment, Malaysia. This will be followed by Internet of Things based solution for peat swamp forest monitoring system in Brunei Darussalam, Indonesia and Malaysia by Professor Dr. Aduwati Salah from University Putra, Malaysia. And thirdly, we will have a case study on Global Environment Centre's experience in Southeast Pahang peatland landscape, particularly on community level rehabilitation and monitoring of peat swamp forests. And finally, we will have a question and answer and closing session at the end of the workshop. So just a little background on the Global Environment Centre. We're a Malaysian non-profit organization. We were established more than 20 years ago. We're working in all ASEAN member states and at international level. We specialize in multi-stakeholder partnership in peatland management and restoration, working with governments, like-minded NGOs, universities, research institute, CBOs, and local communities. We have been appointed by the ASEAN Secretariat and the ASEAN member states as key technical and operational support partner for the ASEAN Peatland Management Strategy 2006 to 2020. We are also the implementer of the EFAD-funded project, Technical Assistance and Knowledge Exchange for Sustainable Management of Peatland Ecosystems in Malaysia, which is supporting this webinar. So just some background, there are 24 million hectares of peatlands in the ASEAN region. This makes it the most extensive wetland ecosystem in the region. These peatlands are naturally forested and have dense tropical forest overlaying thick layers of peat soil, which may be up to 20 or 25 meters thick. That's the height of a 25-story building. So these are very massive stores of carbon, and they're also extremely important in storing water and releasing it slowly to provide water supply and preventing floods. So ASEAN peatlands have high biodiversity. There are a broad range of species, many uniquely occurring in particular peatland sites, such as in the top right, we have Betta lavida, a recently described species of fighting fish known as the emerald fighting fish, or the red betta, which is found only in 2 sites in Selangor, the only place in the world that is found. And there are many other single-site endemic species of fish and also plants within the peatland systems. Peatlands also support local community livelihood. This is the gelatong tree. This is, one could say, swamp rubber. It's indigenous to peat swamp forest and produces a latex like rubber, which is used internationally in many processes. Peatlands also feed local communities, and they provide many benefits: food and fiber and timber and medicinal plants and water supply to many marginal and local communities living in and around the peatland areas. They also play a most critical role in regulating climate. They are the largest stores of carbon in ASEAN, more than the combined store of the biomass of all the other forests in the region combined. They play an important role in the control and release of methane and nitrous oxide. Unfortunately, when peatlands are degraded, this leads to large-scale fires and haze. And this has an impact on the region, such as through transboundary smoke haze. And smoke haze is now recognized as one of the most serious regional environmental problems in Asia. This is the image from October 1998 with the smoke cloud from peatland fires covering about more than 10 million square kilometers. And this had a major impact on human health and economy in the region, as well as being one of the largest global pulses in greenhouse gas emission that has been recorded. 90% of the transboundary haze in southern ASEAN is from peatland fires, and therefore sustainable management of peatlands and fire prevention is critical not only to improving air quality and health, also to reducing greenhouse gases emission, as well as maintaining natural peatlands and their natural value to society and the planet. In response to the degradation of peatlands and extensive fires and haze, ASEAN member states created a number of key institutional frameworks, starting with the ASEAN Agreement on Transboundary Haze Pollution, which was signed here in Malaysia in 2002 and ratified in 2003. The ASEAN Peatland Management Initiative and the ASEAN Peatland Management Strategy were established shortly thereafter, recognizing the important role of peatland management in preventing fires and transboundary haze. And the APMS has run 2006 to 2020 and is currently in review with a view to extending it into the future. So the ASEAN Peatland Management Strategy identifies key action related to integrated peatland management, fire prevention, minimizing greenhouse gas emissions, and so on, and is complemented by national action plans on peatland at the country level in the ASEAN region. So in terms of preventing or controlling peatland fires, ASEAN has recently adopted the ASEAN Guidelines on Peatland Fire Management, which call for a paradigm shift from earlier focus on firefighting to one focused on fire prevention. Recognizing that there is much to be gained by preventing the fire, and this is much more cost effective than trying to fight the fires once they have started. It's also been recognized that active engagement of community in the private sector is critical for firefighting, and this needs to be supported by clear monitoring and information dissemination, as well as tracking the status of the fire. Water management is also critical in fire prevention in peatlands, as peatland is hard to burn when it's wet. So we need to re-wet and raise water table in peatlands to prevent fire. So a lot of progress has been made in recent years in rehabilitating fire-prone sites to reduce the chance of future fires. And this has been undertaken through engagement of many different stakeholders, the government, private sector, and local communities in particular. And this situation with improved water levels and re-wetting of peat also needs to be monitored through various systems, some of which will be explained in the presentations to come. For those areas where drainage has occurred in the peatland, they remain vulnerable to fire. And therefore, any abandoned canals and drains need to be blocked in peatland areas to raise water level for fire prevention and rehabilitation. With the high water level, the chance of fire is reduced and the ecosystem can recover. What are the technologies that we use for monitoring? Two of the key remote sensing technologies are satellite images, and there are many different images which are now available, which can track different aspects of peatland management and also the haze. But more recently, a lot of work has been done using drones. Drones for mapping and drones for survey and for monitoring and detection of fires. And these are extremely valuable tools and now very cost effective to be used at local level as well as on large scale mapping basis. Another important tool is the fire danger rating system. This takes meteorological data in real time from different sites and uses it to generate the fire risk maps, which are generated on a regional basis and a national basis, and are then disseminated through various systems such as the ASEAN Fire Alert Tool and other procedures to inform key stakeholders what are the risk of fires. And then when fires occur, they're detected through hotspot detection systems, such as used through NOAA and MODIS satellites. And these are also relayed on a near real-time basis to partners at the country and local level to enable them to take action. Finally, there are now a lot of smartphone applications available for download. Some examples are given here, where individuals, the community, the general public can monitor the risk of haze, monitor the air quality, and also can look at fire danger rating and other indices. So let me introduce our panel for today. We have three very distinguished speakers. Firstly, Ms. Mashasita Darus. She is the Director of the Air Division of the Department of Environment within the Ministry of Environment and Water in Malaysia. She's been working for more than 28 years with the Department of Environment, ranging from EIA project evaluation and enforcement, training, highway planning, and more recently on haze and air quality management control of open burning. Our second speaker is Professor Dr. Aduwati Sali. She is the project lead for the networked ASEAN peat swamp forest communities, supported by the ICT virtual organization of ASEAN Institutes and NICT. She is based at University Putra, Malaysia. Her background is working on satellite network of excellence for more than 5 years. She's the principal investigator and collaborator for a range of projects with different government ministries under the Research University Grant Scheme, and also the Academy of Sciences for the Developing World. She has been involved as a consultant on many projects related to mobile and satellite communications. Serena Liu is the manager of the Peatland Program for Global Environment Center. She has more than 12 years experience in working on peatland management in the ASEAN region, and was involved in the development of the ASEAN Program for Sustainable Management of Peatland Ecosystems in 2014. She's been a resource program person on improving peatland management practices to reduce peatland and forest fires, and in promoting utilization of science and technology, particularly outputs of satellites such as hotspot information and fire warnings, to alert respective stakeholders to undertake necessary measures of fire prevention. Just coming back again to the program. So shortly we'll be starting the panel session, which will last an hour. Each of the speakers will take about 20 minutes. And then we will have about a half an hour for question and answer and closing. So for the question and answer, participants are requested to pose the questions during the live, which will be answered during the live Q&A session at 3:20 for just under half an hour. But please, everyone, please pose your question at any time during the presentations and the sessions. You can submit your questions under the comment bar on the main screen, at the bottom of the main screen. Please remember to write the name of the speaker your question is posed to. We will try to respond to as many questions as the time permits. If the questions can't be answered during this webinar, we will reply to your question by email. So let me introduce the first speaker. Ms. Machasita Darus is the Director of the Air Division, Department of Environment, Ministry of Environment and Water, Malaysia. She is speaking on the national effort in protecting peatland ecosystem and mitigating peatland degradation through multi-stakeholder engagement in undertaking prevention measures.
English moderator for this session, Mr. Faisal Farish from GEC, distinguished panel speakers, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. I am Mashita Darus, the Air Division Director from Department of Environment Malaysia, and I am also presenting representing Ministry of Environment and Water of Malaysia for this online conference. Allow me to record our appreciation to Malaysia Green Technology and Climate Change Centre for organising this conference, this online conference. And I would like to thank Global Environment Centre as part of the Malaysian Climate Change Group in organising this session. And our appreciation also goes to the audience of this online platform for your continuous support in order to increase awareness and also preparedness in preventing and mitigating peatland fires within and across sectors and discipline. Without further ado, I'd like to present to you about Malaysia's national program on peatland fire prevention program to mitigate haze in Malaysia. Slide. Okay, there you go. Okay, first of all, as introduction, peatland fires, are one of the main problem, especially on the cause of haze in Malaysia and Southeast Asia. And fire occurrence in peatland happen almost every year, especially during dry and hot season. As such, sustainable management of peatland is very important to prevent burnings of fire in peatland, which was the main cause of localized haze. There are 5 main sources of peatland fires. The first one is land clearing for agricultural activities, in particular those who adopt traditional method for slash and burn. Even though this is a traditional method, but it still happens, and in Malaysia, in some areas, and actually it is prohibited. Open burning and slash and burn activities actually is a prohibition by laws in Malaysia, but things still happen. Second one is on unsystematic drainage system, whereby by draining out peat water and land clearing for plantation, road and housing construction, high impact infrastructure, mining, agriculture and others. And the third one is because of cigarette butts and campfire. And wind is a fueling factor for the fire spread. And the fourth one is due to the degraded peatland condition. This is due to lack of vegetation cover to maintain wetness and humidity of the peatland. And last but not least, because of the recreational activities such as camping, fishing, whereby the activities also contribute to the peatland fires. In general, Malaysia has 2.56 million hectares of peatland, covering about 7.7% of the country's land, making the peatlands the most extensive wetland ecosystem in Malaysia. And since 2009, we have embarked into a program under the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment, or in short is NRE, but now it is known as Ministry of Environment and Water, CASA, in order to reduce and also to mitigate the problem of peatland fires that cause localized haze. And this program is managed by Department of Environment Malaysia, but being implemented by various agencies such as Drainage and Irrigation Department, Mineral and Geoscience Department, Forestry Department of Peninsular Malaysia, Selangor Forestry Department, Sabah Forestry Department, and Miri City Council, and a few other agencies, local agencies. There are 7 states that involved in this program in Selangor, Johor, Pahang, Terengganu, Kelantan, Sarawak and Sabah. After 11 years of implementation, we have found that this program have contributed to a lot of advantages in terms of mitigating haze in Malaysia. The first one is in reducing number of fire-prone peatland areas. Yeah. As such, it also mitigate our local and transboundary haze in Malaysia. And second one, because of the construction of infrastructures in this program, such as check dams, tube wells, retention ponds and water pipeline, it also helps to maintain the water level from becoming dry and flammable. The third one, it also reduced the duration for fire suppression because of the availability of water for that purpose. The fourth one, it's very important to have systematic coordination between agencies that involved in this program. Without their collaborations and good coordination, it's very difficult, yeah, for us to achieve the target of this program. Because this program also specify the roles and responsibilities of each agency under one program. These are the infrastructures that we develop under this program. The first one is check dam. A check dam is a canal block constructed across drainage canal in order to restore a hydrologic system of peatlands by increasing the water level and also the underground water level. And it also helped to control and slow down the peatland water discharge from the area. And it also helped to retain water in drainage to provide source of water supply, especially for fire suppression. Second one is tube well. Tube well is a deep well that produce water source from underground water aquifer using submersible pump or pump engine. And it also helped to wet or flood a dry and burn peatland. Yeah? And also help to increase the water level. The water that being pumped also help to increase water level in the drains or nearby pond to provide a source of water supply during fire suppression operation. The third one is watchtower. A watchtower is a structure, a stable structure built with a height of 20 to 30 meters above land surface level in order to monitor and observe using binoculars with 360 view of the surrounding area of peatland, whereby a watchtower is manned and help to monitor any fire activities in the surrounding area of the peatland. Then we have also retention pond. Retention pond is a pond that stores and supplies water to be readily available for fire suppression and also to wet the peatland areas, especially during the hot and dry season. Next, water pipeline. Yeah, we also have a water pipeline whereby this water pipeline is a high density polyethylene pipe through which the water is pumped to prevent, control and reduce the risk of fire at degraded peatland areas, especially during drought and extreme hot weather season. We channel the water pump from water reservoirs such as mine or abandoned pond into the fire-prone area. Normally this water pipeline is done to channel water outside into the forest reserve to fire into the forest reserve, peatland forest reserve, in order to supply water to the forest reserve. This is the overall pictures of the numbers of total operating infrastructure in Malaysia, whereby as you see here, we have 7 states that involved. These 7 states are chosen because of the coverage of peatland in the states. And we have a total of 290 check dams, 1890 wells, 50 retention ponds, 5 watchtower, and 1 water pipeline, which is about 3 kilometers into the forest reserve. And apart from construction of infrastructures, we also have some other programs such as community programs to give awareness to public and community on awareness for prohibition of open burning in peatland. As you can see, we involve at the right hand corner below here, you can see we have a program with a local community so that they are aware of the importance of the peatland and also the prohibition by law not to conduct open burning, especially for agricultural purposes. And we also have programs and build few signboards across the country, no open burning and fire prevention signboard in order to deter the open burning. And we also have watchtower surveillance by agencies. We man the watchtower, especially during hot and dry season. This is done in Selangor and Sarawak. This is one of sample of watchtower in Miri. And the next one, in order to test out the effectiveness of standard operating procedures of this program, we also conduct a demonstration of the activities in the SOP. You can see here at the right hand corner here, we have a demonstration of pumping groundwater from the tube well, pumping of it and channel it into the drainage system in the peatland area. This is our standard operating procedures under this program. This acts as a guideline to all agencies involved in this program. And this SOP actually helped to coordinate the roles and responsibilities of the implementing agencies, and as well as enhancing the communication network between the agencies. And this also helped to integrate actions and strategies of the activities under this program. And this SOP, Standard Operating Procedures, is revised from time to time in order to enhance further the program. And we also have some initiative apart from the program in order to control the peatland fires. One is a monitoring of peatland water level using piezometer. Piezometer is a small size tube used to measure below ground water level in peat soil. And we conduct periodic measurement and monitoring during hot and dry season. And this periodic measurement and monitoring is transferred or being transmitted through a real-time and online monitoring system, so that we can monitor whichever area or peatland area which are dry up during the hot and dry season in terms of the water level, so that we can trigger actions among the agencies. The second one is on drone monitoring. Drone monitoring has been an extensive practice here in Malaysia, especially for monitoring of environmental problematic areas. And so does it goes for this program, whereby we use drone to monitor the activity in the peatland area. And also this is the most cost-effective and it is easy to deploy. And it should be accompanied by a special monitoring team so that the monitoring activities can be done regularly. And another initiative is construction of clay dike in the peatland. Clay dike is a vertical clay layer installed in the peatland in order to prevent lateral drainage. It is built at the same level as the peatland in order to maintain the optimum water level and also to reduce the water seepage from peatland in the long term. So this clay dike has been used effectively in one of the forest reserve in Malaysia that help to prevent fires, peatland fires from being spread out. And for this program also, we have conducted effective study to see the impact of this program. We have conducted a study last year, and we also come up with a master plan for fire-prone peatland management in Malaysia for the year 2021 to 2030. And this master plan has been prepared in order to plan and design a strategy to address the challenges of fire-prone peatland management. Eventually, the ultimate goal is to prevent local and transboundary haze. Under the master plan, there are management, planning, and department system for the fire-prone peatland areas, with the emphasis on implementations of programs and also on the governance, coordinations, and smart partnership that can be included in the master plan to ensure the program is successful in the future. And a scientific and technical and ecosystem approach should be adapted at every stage of federal, state, and local planning. This has been stipulated under this master plan. And under this master plan, our future focus will be more on prevention approach, whereby the current practice, as we can see now, we spend so much of resources on controlling and for fire suppression when the fires occurs. We call it, the concept is a 2080 approach. So now the paradigm shift under this program is for us to go more on prevention approach, whereby we give more on prevention for 80% and 20% for fire suppression. This also involves in terms of resources, manpower, financing, and whatever resources that we feel that we should focus more on prevention rather than for combating the fires. With this 80-20 approach, we hope that will also able to further reduce the duration of fire suppression, and it also help to reduce the expenditure cost for the suppression or combating the fire, and reduce our workforce and maintenance costs for fire suppression. As you know, fire suppression is very much consuming a lot of budget in terms of operating cloud seeding, water bombing, and also aircraft, maintaining the aircraft in order to help out to combat the fires. So we want to shift our paradigm to more of a preventive approach. And there are a few elements in the master plan to improve further on this project. The most important thing is on the governance, administration, and management. And as far as the management and governance is concerned, land is in Malaysia is state matters. Therefore, the federal government want to improve further in terms of the management of peatland to make it more sustainable and also help to reduce the cost of peatland fires. Same goes to planning and development. More trainings and land development need to be focused and also to be considered while doing the development, especially in the peatland, so that it will not affect the hydrology and also the ecology of peatland. The third one is on resources, especially on source of income. This is another important element. In order to ensure the success of this program or the project, we must have source of income, whether from the federal government or from the state government. Collaborative effort between the two, which is federal and state, is very important, whereby there must be some mix of income or come up with funding system, so that to ensure the sustainability of financing the resources to maintain and sustain the peatland areas. Another important element is stakeholders and community involvement. Collaboration with private stakeholders and community would be more effective, if implementation of this program involve them. Through smart collaboration with the private sectors, we can reduce some of the government budget in order to build up the infrastructures and also to mitigate the fires. In Malaysia, we have some collaboration with plantation owners, especially in those big states which have a bigger plantation area, whereby we requires them to have their own infrastructures, in the plantation areas, or else they are enforced to do so, and if fires occurs in their area, in their plantation area, they will be penalized under the law. So it is very important to collaborate with the private sectors in order for them to control the fires from their own land. Another important element is on the community involvement. This is very important because they are the one who help or help the government agencies, to reduce, because in terms of awareness, in terms of their efforts, and also their willingness to safeguard the peat area, because they are the one, public are the one who receive the impact from the peatland fires because of haze. That's why public and community involvement is very important element in this project improvement under our master plan. I think that is all about our national plan on peatland fires program to mitigate haze. Thank you for listening. If there are any questions regarding Malaysia's peatland fires program to mitigate haze Malaysia, you can ask during question and answer session. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much to Matsusita Daras, Director of the Air Division of Department of Environment, for your presentation. Let me now introduce the second speaker, Professor Engineer Dr. Aduwati Saleh from University Putra, Malaysia. She's the project lead of the Network ASEAN Peat Swamp Communities, supported by the ICT Virtual Organization of ASEAN Institutes and NICT. She will be speaking on Internet of Things-based solution for peat swamp forest monitoring system in Brunei Darussalam, Indonesia, and Malaysia.
Okay. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Adwati Sali. I am from UPM under the Faculty of Engineering and Wireless and Photonics Network Research Center of Excellence, WIPNET. So today I'm going to present our work entitled NAPC, Networked ASEAN Peatland Forest Communities. So if I may share the slides. I hope you can view my slides. I'll just put it on presentation mode. Okay. So this is the project that we are working on. It is still ongoing, and it is funded by NICT Japan under its ASEAN EWO initiative. And the members are UPM and MIMOS from Malaysia. And from Indonesia, we have IPB, Institute Pertanian Bogor, and BPPT. And in Brunei, we have UTB, University Technology Brunei. So this is basically presentation online of my presentation today. So I'm just going to talk about the technological and social innovation and what this project is all about. So as we know, let me just move this a little bit. Why do we have, why NAPC, why is this project being conducted? As we know, in 2019, we had quite a devastating transboundary haze episode, which happened throughout Southeast Asia, especially in Indonesia, Brunei, Singapore, and Malaysia. So we can see that all this happened, if we can still remember this. So especially this haze or the forest fires could be due to a number of factors. Yeah? One of them is burnt peatland forest. So burnt peatland forest releases smoke that is not the same as the regular forest fire. So because of its soil content, it's not the same as the normal forest content, soil content, and it has higher intensity of carbon, and we know that carbon is the source of fine particulate matter, and this causes pollution and haze. So thank you to GEC for inviting me to share this project. And we know that GEC has done quite very extensive work on peatlands in Southeast Asia. So we have found this ASEAN program on sustainable management on peatland ecosystems. It is available on the website, and the study has been very good. We have been using it as our reference, and we know how peatlands is concentrated in Southeast Asia as compared to other places in the world. And specifically for this project, we are targeting the 3 countries, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Brunei. And the focal areas in our project is under number 2, which is basically research, because we are research institutions, but we also engage with the NGOs and the social communities, as well as regulatory bodies. And number 8, which is integrated management of peatlands. So this is what the project aimed or vision to do. So this project has been started since 2018. Yeah, we started on the 1st of July 2018, and it will last until 30th of June 2021. So it's a 3-year project. So basically, what we're going to do is to propose IoT-based peatland monitoring in the 3 countries: Malaysia, Indonesia, and Brunei. And then this IoT-based peatland monitoring will complement the existing manual peatland data collection to propose like an integrated peatland management. And the technological part is from this data, some peatland data analytics will be conducted for potential forest management and integration, if possible, with FDRS, with the fire danger rating system, for potential early warning system. So this is still been ongoing. We have been working on it, analyzing the data and then verifying the data with everybody, with GEC, with Jabatan Perhutanan, with Meteorological Department. So all this will validate the data, and this data analytics hopefully will help for better forest management. And on top of that, we also aim to do social innovation. It has been ongoing since 2018 to conduct engagement and social programs with the peatland forest communities, as well as relevant authorities and NGOs. We don't want the technological innovation, for example, the IT system, just just being there and not being used by anyone. We don't want that to happen. So we would like to engage with all parties, and it is great that GEC has been collaborating with us. We have been presenting to GEC, and GEC have been updating us. So we hope that through this collaboration between the project and GEC and other relevant bodies, it could spur better forest management, especially in Raja Musa Forest Reserve. So a little bit more on the technological innovation. So we will have these three countries, and we chose the three peatland forests. In Malaysia, we chose Raja Musa Forest Reserve in Kuala Selangor. In Indonesia, our partners there, they chose Jambi in Sumatra Barat as the most the highest risk for potential forest fires, and in Brunei, our partner chose Badas. So the three peatland forests is deployed or being deployed with IoT system, and through this IoT system, whichever data that can be shared, we will share, and then potential estimation of forest fires can be predicted or estimated. And we view that this can be integrated with other systems, like for example, the fire danger rating system with meteorological department. It is still ongoing. We haven't finalized that yet, but we hope that through this integration of systems, it can help meteorological department to reach out to the public and update the early warning system more effectively. And then we know that Malaysia also has its own My Cuaca, which is an app. So in the long term, if we could integrate them, that it would be really, really good. Okay, so the data analytics, we have a dashboard, so it is being updated frequently. Currently, it is updated every 2 minutes, and then we can have a profile of the parameters that we choose to represent the peatland forest condition. So for Malaysia, we have three countries, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Brunei. So for Malaysia, we chose Raja Musa Forest Reserve. So as you know, it is a peatland forest in Malaysia, in Kuala Selangor, in the north of Selangor. And then we know that this is how, my background is engineering. So all this is something new to me. Yeah, I'm learning as well, because we have UPM, we have WIPNET, the Wireless and Photonics Network Research Center of Excellence, and we also have INTRO, Institute of Tropical Forest Products and Forestry. So we learn from each other. The forestry people update us on the scenario of the forest, etc. And then from Faculty of Engineering, from WIPNET, we advise on the IoT system. So we know how the forestry department has been monitoring the water table using piezometer, and where exactly in Raja Musa Forest Reserve it imposed the highest risk, the red ones, and then we can see that the lowest water level may have some high risk for forest fire. So from discussion with JPNS, we are requested to deploy in an area where there is red in color here. So we deploy it near to the tower. Yeah, in Raja Musa, there are two sensor nodes near the tower, and the tower itself, we have the weather station. So this is basically how it looks like in terms of our IoT deployment. If you've been to Raja Musa Forest Reserve, you will notice the tower there. So this tower is where our weather station is located, together with the LoRa. LoRa is long-range communication. So from the sensor nodes to the gateway, we use LoRa transmission technology. And then from gateway to the cloud or to the control center, we use the normal mobile communications, 4G or LTE. So through these technologies, we managed to connect the sensors, yeah, basically the piezometer, the weather station. So all those sensors for water level, for soil moisture and temperature, and weather-related data is relayed from the site, from Raja Musa, back to the control center. It can be anywhere in the world. So, but currently it is in UPM. So this is how it is implemented. The tower is where the gateway and the weather station is. So this is like the heart of the system. And on the sides, we have our sensor nodes, the piezometer, and also the LoRa antenna. And then from the gateway, we connect to the cloud, to the cloud via the mobile communications. And from the cloud, we can extract the data. anywhere with anyone with the administrative login can access this data. So we are still deploying this because it is still an ongoing project. And on top of the peatland data analytics and measurement, we also conduct the RF part, the radio frequency part, which is the LoRa that we use, LoRa technologies that we use. So we conducted a measurement campaign to see, for example, the signal, which one is the best. Of course, we have deployed the sensor nodes, the sites, the 2 sites, and then we transmit it to the gateway, which is on the tower. But we want to see whether the foliage, the propagation, the terrain, is it gonna influence transmission of LoRa in that area? Because sometimes, you know, when you have mobile signal, it can go, if you see the bar of the mobile signal on your mobile phone, you can see that sometimes it's 1 or sometimes it's 4. So we want to investigate that in the area of this Raja Musa Forest Reserve. So we conducted that, and we are about to analyze the data very soon. And in terms of the peatland data, we do some analytics, especially on the water depth table. Yeah, this is also still ongoing because in data analytics, the bigger size of data, they call it big data analytics, the better. So we deployed this since January 2020, but of course we need to validate the system, we need to validate the data, we have to check, is it correct, whatever is being given by the system. So I myself even check with GEC, and then we check again with Met Malaysia. So, and then we improve the system. And then what happened in March, as everybody knows, in Malaysia, we have our MCO, movement control order, until around July. So during that March until July, we had some problem because the sensors were destroyed, maybe because of the wildlife over there, or maybe because of the weather. So we lost some of the data during the MCO. So we don't have enough data to make like a extensive analysis. So it is still ongoing. It is best if we could have a 1 year long data, meaning that it covers all seasons, especially the dry and the rainy seasons, and then we can make a very conclusive remarks. So currently it is still ongoing. We pray very hard that the data will give us a very good analytics in terms of size, a good size for us to make conclusive remarks. So, and then Alhamdulillah, this project has been widely covered, especially in the media. It was in Digital News Asia, and also being retweeted by our YP, KJ, Khairi Jamaluddin, Musti Minister. Because MIMOS is one of the partners for Malaysia, UPM and MIMOS. So MIMOS has been working very hard in the form of providing the dashboard, the NAPC dashboard. So it is from the data, from the system. How can we make sure that for example, the forest rangers, the normal people, the village, the people in the areas can understand the data. So this is what MIMOS is doing, the board or the data visualization. For UPM part, we conduct on the IoT system itself, the engineering part. So, and then we also will feature in the local newspaper, and etc. So that is in terms of promotion. And we also have one in Indonesia conducted by our partners, IPB, University Pertanian Bogor, and BPPT. BPPT is similar like MIMOS in Malaysia. BPPT is looking after electrical and electronic systems to help the government of Indonesia for anything related to EE. So they chose Jambi, which is in Sumatra, because it is the most fire-prone areas bordered by Rio Province, Sulawesi Sea, and Rio Islands. So you can see the ones in pink color, and they have exactly where they are going to deploy the IoT system. So Indonesia has been very advanced in forest fires monitoring and management. So they are also collaborating with University of Leeds in another project, but we also integrate with this project on data mining and air pollution monitoring as impacts of forest fires, map fire. So they use the data to emulate, for example, the wind direction, how a forest fire in Jambi can reach Malaysia or Brunei, for example, in how many hours or how many minutes, and what is the direction like. So they have been working on this for so many years, and we really love that they are on board, and we can learn, the Malaysian researchers can learn from our Indonesian partners. And Brunei, they deploy the system in Badas. So the system in Badas is quite unique because it is not, the forest fire is not because of human intervention or something. There is human intervention, but it's not mainly because of drought. Okay, so for example, in this area, degraded peatland, Alan Bunga Forest is 1 kilometer away in the background, but that area is very close to the housing area. So you can see here, housing estate just across the road of the peatland, and then illegal growing of food in the area. And the government of Brunei has warned against the use of land, but somehow it still happen. And sometimes the fire, and especially that area, is also oil and gas rich, and this is very, very dangerous if fire were found over there. So they use similar system. Yeah, we have the same system, but of course we have to customize it according to the local demand, customize it to the local authority, to the terrain or propagation. So they deploy the same concept. Yeah, and this is our partner, Dr. Vida from UTB, with her vendors, yeah, in deployment of gateway as well as weather station. And they managed to deploy the sensors in the area just recently. So we hope that they will also get the data from the IoT system and can do some analytics, just what like Malaysia did. And from here, we can have the same system in all three sites, Malaysia, Brunei, and Indonesia, and we can share some of the peatland data. Of course, we will observe the governance, the data governance issue, and we will share only the data that is made available for the researchers. And the third objective of this project is in terms of social innovation. So we have the technological innovation, but we know technology means nothing without the without humans. Yeah, if humans doesn't adopt it or human doesn't want to use it, then what's the use of the technology? So taking note into this, we have engaged with JPNS, with Sahabat Hutan Gambut, with GEC, right from the beginning. We hope that we can extend this project for everyone to use. Of course, it is just 2 sites for IoT in the vast area of Raja Musa Forest Reserve. It is not enough. It is just a pilot project to see whether this IoT system can help forest management or not. So we know that we will complement. We will not replace with any existing system. We will complement, and we want to get feedback and comments from the users, from the villages, from the communities. So we plan to have community engagement, and GEC has invited us. Thanks a lot, Raj, for inviting UKM for the tree replanting on the 22nd of February, if I'm not mistaken. I managed to bring my students, my undergraduate students, under Engineers and Society class to replant the trees. So it has been a very fun and interesting program. We hope to join them again next year, inshallah, if everything is fine in terms of COVID situation. Most importantly, community engagement is meant for the alert system to be adopted. The project will just last until 30th of June 2021. After that, we don't know what will happen. So we really hope that through this community engagement, the community can take it, can adopt it, can extend it. We are here, UPM and MIMOS are here to help. And if we could further collaborate, that will be even better. So that is in terms of community engagement. So our partners in Brunei has been very active. They have stakeholder involvements. They have MOU signing with the industry, and etc. So these are some of the project or some of the activities. And our partners in Indonesia, they are working very closely with the regulatory bodies, with the agencies, the government agencies, as well as the people on site. So I think there are a lot of things that myself, personally, I can learn from our partners in Indonesia and in Brunei. So basically, the project, we started on the 1st of July 2018, and then we had our programs, the workshop, discussion in Brunei, and then we had last year, we had discussion in Bogor in Indonesia, and then 2019 and 2020, we have been deploying the IoT system in Malaysia, in Brunei, in Indonesia, and 2020 has been very challenging for us, but Alhamdulillah, we get through, although some of the system may not be working because of wildlife and then the lockdown, the weather, but we managed to rectify it, and then we get the data, but we hope that we can get larger size of data so that we can have better analytics. So that is our plan for beyond June 2021 in terms of haze prediction, potential forest fires, transboundary haze center research activities, because we want to make sure that these 3 countries, if we can extend it to other ASEAN countries, that will be really, really interesting. And we welcome GEC, we welcome other institutions to collaborate with us. I think, yeah, this is just the list of presentations and publications under this project. That's all. Thank you.
Let us thank our second speaker, Professor Dr. Adwati Saleh, for her presentation. And let me introduce the third speaker, Ms. Lorena Liu, Manager of the Peatland Program of Global Environment Center. She'll be speaking on Global Environment Center's experience in Southeast Pahang peatland landscape.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Mr. Faisal, for the introduction, and thank you to IGM to provide this platform for us to share our experiences working in Southeast Pahang peatland landscape. Let me share my screen. So this initiative basically is a collaboration between Pahang State Forestry Department and Global Environment Center, with support by International Fund for Agriculture Development effort, UNDP, Yayasan Bursa, and working together with Jakwa Orang Asli Development Agency, of course our local community in Pahang Tenggara, the Southeast Pahang. So this rehabilitation program at Southeast Pahang peatland landscape was initiated in 2018, and the landscape itself is 230,000 hectares, of which 108,000 hectares is the biggest peatland forest complex in Peninsular Malaysia. The initiative was started with this not so good factor, because in September 2018 until October 2018, there was a fire and estimated 230 hectares of peatland was degraded due to the burning. The landscape itself is with a combination of a reserve, plantation area, and also indigenous community land. So this drone photo showing this combination within the landscape, and as we know, there had some logging activity within the landscape, and the canals from the logging activity and the existing plantation activity within the landscape have been draining the water source from the peat swamp forest, of which imposed the risk to fire. So our approach on this rehabilitation activity basically based on this smart partnership program with stakeholder engagement, not only with the government sector but with the plantation and also local community who are staying there. To engage with the indigenous community, we need to follow free, prior and informed consent FPIC. And this process basically is very important to engage the local community for them to understand and to plan together and work together with us. The consultation with the village community also very important to facilitate our work. For example, the demography survey, we need to understand what are the challenges and the need of the local community for their living. To rehabilitate a degraded area, reverting or increase the water level is very important, and as an immediate action to prevent the future fire. So we have to construct canal blocks or some call it check dams to increase the water table. So based on the effort by installing or constructing 10 canal blocks or check dams within the landscape with cooperation of government agency, plantation, and of course the local community, we have successfully prevented an estimate of 1,500 hectares of degraded peatland. And this area have no repeated fire since March 2019. For the severely degraded area after the rewetting, we try to do enrichment planting with fast-growing pioneer forest species. Last month, when we did the ground survey, we managed to went to the site and check. The water level was about 30 centimeters above ground surface, and some fast-growing pioneer forest species that were planted still survive in that condition. This map showing the 1,500 hectare degraded area that have been rewetted and the location of check dams. In total, we have constructed 10 check dams together with government agency, plantation, and local community within the landscape. For us to engage the community for their living, we kind of like try to help them to set up the community nursery. So far, this nursery has produced more than 2,000 seedlings, and then we have this sapling buyback system to generate income for them. Of course, when we ask the local community not to burn, not to too dependent on the forest, we need to take care of their welfare. So to harmonize human environment bonding. So we support community on this basic necessity. We provide electricity and clean water supply to villages. So we help to build on this solar system, the 2-in-1 solar system in 3 locations. In addition, we also provide alternative livelihood option to the community. We provide seed grants to them. We arrange a training session with successful social enterprises nearby the villages for peer learning programs. We also engage with the government departments such as Department of Agriculture and Department of Fishery to provide technical support to the local community to set up a fish tank, and also some advices on beekeeping. Of course, we will help them to explore marketing mechanism to sell their products. We care and we motivate the local community. So community, they have the local knowledge. So we need to preserve this local knowledge and traditional knowledge. So we have the regular communication and follow up on progress and understand the challenges on living circumstances, and we continue the support and guidance. Community-based fire patrolling program is a very important program that we engage with the community, and we empower the community to take care of the peatland ecosystem. So we engage them and then we train them how to do the checking on the water table and adjust the fire risk on the signboard. So they have to understand the importance of the peatland and the benefit that they can get from the peat swamp forest to the community. So we share information, and they will further sharing the information with their neighbors and relatives on the fire risk during the dry season, and they give reminders to them for not to burn during fishing activity. So series of training programs have been provided, and direct involvement also from the community to enhance their capacity in checking the peat dam, doing the canal block, how to check on the water level. all this activity basically is to comply or to support the implementation of the national policies and plans. The peatland element is basically already captured under National Policy for Biological Diversity 2016 to 2020, of which 10,000 hectares of a degraded area need to be rehabilitated by 2025 under the key target 7.3, and there's a national action plan for peatlands 2011 to 2020, which will be extended or renewed or revised until 2030. There's also National Peatland Project titled Sustainable Management of Peatland Ecosystem in Malaysia, SMPM, with involvement of 5 landscapes in 4 states, which are Pahang, Sabah, Sarawak, and Selangor. And this Southeast Pahang Peatland landscape is part of the project location or the landscape of this project. There are also some national and site level integrated management plans in Malaysia. And for Southeast Pahang, the management plan, although already expired, but during this implementation of this SMPM project starting next year, the state government will look into this management plan and to revise and update this management plan for Southeast Pahang peatland landscape. And the other element is actually the Malaysian Sustainable Palm Oil Certification, the MSPO certification, which encourage the best management practices for oil palm on peatlands, of which then will link to globally recognized standard of a roundtable on sustainable palm oil RSPO, which actually fall under the supply chain traceability. Of course, Malaysia supports the regional agreements. So Malaysia already signed on ASEAN Agreement on Transport Haze Pollution (ATHP), and we have been implementing ASEAN Peatland Management Strategy 2006 to 2020, and supporting implementation of the ASEAN Program on Sustainable Management of Peatland Ecosystem 2014 to 2020, and of course to support the ASEAN Haze-Free Roadmap, and we have been referencing to ASEAN guidelines on peatland fire management. All this is ASEAN level plans or strategies is basically to achieve sustainable management of peatland through collective action and enhance cooperation to support and sustain local livelihood, reduce fire risk and associated haze, and contribute to global environmental management. All this activity and managing peatland forests sustainably in Malaysia is basically directly support the implementation of a Sustainable Development Goals 1, 3, 5, 6, and so on and so forth. So we acknowledge the effort and also support from these partners and also other partners that have been cooperating with GEC to rehabilitate the Southeast Pahang peatland. Thank you.
Thank you, Serena, for your presentation. We are now coming to the Q&A session. Let me remind participants again to post questions through the comment bar at the bottom of the main screen, and remember to write the name of your speaker in your question is posed to. As I said earlier, we will try to respond to as many questions as the time permits. If the questions can't be answered during this session, we will reply to your question by email. Thank you. Remember to unmute. Be ready for the questions. Other questions? What's happening? Can someone check what's going on? Yeah, well, we can't. We're not live streaming. They're not displaying it. Yeah. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the session this afternoon on peatlands and climate change mitigation, fire prevention and monitoring. So for the Q&A session, we have two of the speakers that you saw earlier, but Mashita is sorry, there was some interference there. So Juan Mashita is replaced by Inchikwan Aminordin, who is the Principal Assistant Director of the Air Division of Department of Environment. We also have Professor Aduwati Sali from UPM and Ms. Serena Liu from GEC. So if I can start off first with Inchikwan Aminordin from Department of Environment. We have received 3 questions for you. Question number 1, what is the government's direction in peatland management, especially in fire-prone peatland areas? You need to unmute your microphone.
Hi everyone, thank you Mr. Parish. I'm Aminordin from Department of Environment on behalf of Mishita, who she cannot make it this Q&A session. Okay, regarding the question, in managing peatland, especially in Malaysia, sustainable peatland must be integrated peatland management that must involve all agencies, both from federal and also at the state level. Under the peatland fire prevention program to mitigate haze, what Puan Mishita just present just now, the government through the Department of Environment has a channel of financial allocation to the Department of Geoscience and Mineral, Department of Irrigation and Drainage, and several other agencies in construction of the fire prevention infrastructure such as tube well, check dam, and so on. So yes, we know since 2009 until now, that means from RMK, Malaysia Ninth Planning until 11 Malaysia Plan, there is we know that for the implementation of this program, the finance allocation is only come from federal government. So Department of Environment that we think that this is a time for the federal government and the state government to play a role in the fire prevention in peatland, so that the sustainable land management can be implemented jointly and continuously. In this also involve providing a joint and a joint annual financial allocation, not just from federal government, but the state government also must allocate some financial annually, especially for maintenance, upgrading, and also the operation of those infrastructure. As we know that state government as a planning can control the development of peatland by considering the sustainability of peatland and maintaining the peatland ecosystem, as well as preserving preserving the biodiversity in the peatland area, especially at the permanent forest reserve. Through this, the federal agency also can assist in terms of expertise to state government agencies in peatland management, especially in the fire-prone area. That means DOE can guide the state agency, especially in the fire-prone area, to control and to manage the fire-prone area. That means there are no fire open burning in this area. At the same time, we also want to maximize the usage of those infrastructure, not just for fire prevention, but also used for another purpose, such as flood control, agriculture, and also ecotourism, like bird watching. We can use this watchtower as a bird watching. So this can become one of the economy sector for the ecotourism, from ecotourism. Another part is also, of course, involvement from NGOs, and also that's we also welcome the NGOs to join this program. We know this program, the federal government always play a big role to control, to manage this peatland, especially the fire-prone area, to prevent from the fire burn, and of course the case will come, as well as whether it's a local or transboundary case. As we know that some NGOs have expertise in the peatland management. So now government is working on this in this direction, in the management of the managing of this peatland, especially in the fire-prone area. Thank you, Mr. Barry.
Okay, thank you very much, Encik Wan. I have one follow-up question from audience who's involved in the oil palm sector. He wants to ask, how do you leverage oil palm companies to make sure that they cooperate in preventing and controlling fires in peatland in and around their plantations?
Okay, this one another issues, because the peatlands plantation will say that the fire come from outside, not from their side. They say the people open the land and start the burning. So the fire slowly come to the land. So this is what happened especially in the Miri. This is a very wide area. Then the fire is from outside. So actually we under section 29A, Environmental Quality Act 1974. This is stated that nobody are allowed to do any open burning. This include palm oil industry, or also people from outside. We are not allowed everybody to do this open burning activity inside the compound or the area. I think this that's all. That's the answer I can.
Okay. Thank you very much, Encik Wan. So let us move on to second panel member, Professor Aduwati. There's a few questions come up. Firstly, can you mentioned a lot about the use of Internet of Things. So for using the IoT to help monitor and manage peatland forests, what other applications do you think that in Peatland could be benefiting from the use of IoT? Thank you.
Thanks, Faizal. So the IoT is basically can be used for anything, for example, in remote monitoring or management of environment. So we have spoken to the forestry department and we have discussed what other applications the IoT could help Raja Musa Forest Reserve in particular. So we were thinking about, for future collaboration, about the border monitoring of the peatlands, because Raja Musa Forest Reserve is a forest reserve, obviously, but it borders with some smallholders palm oil plantation. So we want to make sure that they won't encroach into the forest reserve, or like a forest fire would not spread into the forest reserve. So something that we could deploy the IoT for this border monitoring. And another, other than border monitoring, we could also use IoT for water quantity and quality monitoring, because the issues of water crisis, it's always ongoing. So but we know that peatlands could be one of the sources of water, so something that we can use the IoT, especially when now in terms of pandemic season, like now we couldn't go to the site on a more usual basis as before. So why not we use the IoT to monitor the environment on the remote site?
Okay. Thank you very much. Some people say that data is the new oil. How do you think big data analytics can help us sustain our resources?
Yes, data is indeed the new oil. So for example, if we have large size of data, that, as the term suggests, big data analytics, if we could compile or analyze a large set of data comprises of all seasons in the peatland area, we can make data analytics for potential forest fire estimation. Yeah, because not only that, we can also monitor the parameters, the peatland data, as in any kind of data analytics applications. We could make prediction and estimation, and we can even optimize the system using big data analytics. So this is what we aimed and envisioned to do in our project.
Okay, thank you very much. One final question we have. What were your biggest challenges in deploying IoT systems in the Peat Swamp Forest?
Okay, from our experience, technology is there. We are researchers, so technology is our bread and butter. But the main challenge is when you are deploying. You could plan for so many weeks, for so many months, but the deployment could only take for 1 week or maybe 2 weeks. And then when it is deployed, you have to maintain it. So the challenge is maintaining the system. And what happened if out of sudden something unexpected happened, for example, COVID-19 and pandemic, and you couldn't go to the site, you couldn't maintain the system. So those are some of the challenges that we face. But it is okay, because we learn from these challenges and we improve the system on how we can make sure that the system is always maintained and can give us the correct data through this IoT system.
Thank you very much. Let's now move to our third presenter, Serena Liu. We've got a few questions for you. Firstly, from Sabah Forestry Department, what is the next step to make community-based fire monitoring a sustainable program?
Thank you for Sabah Forestry Department. I think basically we recognize the effort of a community in this fire patrolling program and even the monitoring program. So they are actually the first people. Now we are talking about first liner. So they are also our first liner if they get the impact from the fire. So I think better to incorporate the community-based fire prevention or even the monitoring program into the forestry department assisting program, because I know that every year the forestry department, they have an assisting program like the maintenance or even this capacity building or the training program for the community. So I guess it's best for us to consider, or even forestry department to consider, to adopt them into the program itself, so that they can be updated, the community can be updated and raise their awareness every year based on the condition on the site, so they know how to deal with the actual condition, rather than they just hear from the just Department of Environment and even from Forestry Department how to do it, but they don't have hands-on activity or practice to deal with the fire or even to do the monitoring on behalf of the community or even on behalf of the government agencies. I think that is really important for the government sector, even the local district office, to really think about this, to incorporate this kind of community initiative and recognize their assistance and also appreciate them in a way. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. There's a second question coming from Petronas. They mentioned that they understand that the Southeast Pahang is an environmentally sensitive area in the peat swamp forest, and this incorporates the buffer zones. So how does what you presented just now, does it relate only to the forest reserve or also the buffer zone? Can you elaborate? For Serena.
Yeah, for the Southeast Pahang peatland landscape, when we talk about the area itself, so the forest reserve is basically the biggest peat forest in Peninsula. Of course, we know that some activity or most of the activity inside forest reserve are actually prohibited. So we can't get into the forest reserve basically. But for indigenous community, they are kind of like different group. Sometimes we will think, or we will call them like marginalized group. So basically when the plantation go into the area, they actually got sandwiched in between the plantation and even forest reserve. So some may have flexibility to move in, especially for indigenous people to get in, and because they depends on the forest for their living. So for the management of this landscape, most of the community, they are actually living in the buffer zone. Yes, for Southeast peat swamp forest, actually identified as an ecosystem, ecological sensitive area within the National Physical Plan, but also depends on the state government whether they recognize as the class 1 or class 2 of the ESA. So different classes have different requirement. If I'm not mistaken, for the ESA class 1, we need to have a 1 kilometer buffer along the forest reserve. But for the ESA class 2, basically 500 meter in perimeter of the forest reserve boundary. But this, of course, fall under the state government jurisdiction. So state government have to take action on this, whether it's going to be like under the class 1 or class 2. So I guess to really appreciate the effort from the community, I would like to get the permission to play a video. It's a 2-minute video to illustrate further on the community initiative, and then how they learn about this canal block or raising the water table, whether how it impacts livelihood. So can I get the host to play the 2 minutes video?
Yes, certainly. Go ahead. If the Secretariat could assist for Serena, that she can share her screen to show the video, or the Secretariat can play the video directly. Sound? You need to put the sound. Thank you, Serena, for that video. Anything you want to add?
I think all of us have to recognize that a smart partnership within agencies like government departments, plantation sector, local government, and also local community, and of course from NGO side to facilitate this kind of a partnership. And of course, the other thing is like we share the treasure of a peatland ecosystem. We share responsibility and we share the benefit. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. We have another question coming from someone who would like to understand about peatlands in Johor. This is also for NCHIC 1. So the question is, what is the plan or action for a developed peatland area, such as peatland area converted to agriculture in Johor? So we know a lot of the peatland is converted for pineapple or for other crops in Johor. And what action is recommended by Department of Environment, how to prevent the fire in those areas? And is DOE under its program have any activities in Johor? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Faris. It's regarding on the converted land from peatland to agriculture. Really, these are the state matter. Yeah. For Department of Environment, we can control the activity under EIA activity. Yeah? If this activity is under prescribed activity, so we can control it under the EIA condition. Yeah? So, but of course for the open burning activity, of course we control under the section 29A, and I just mentioned earlier. For others, that's only activity, only prescribed activity, only just for prescribed activity we can control with some condition. Others, state matter. Yeah, that's
okay. Let's say the land has already been opened earlier for agriculture. Is there anything that you can advise to the landowner? How do they prevent their farmland on peat from burning? What step can the landowner do to prevent the fire on their own land?
okay. I think this also we facing the problem in the Johan Steer. Yeah, very famous. Yeah, even today the IPO is unhealthy in Johan Steer because this activity, the open burning from agriculture activity. Yeah. To educate the farmer, I think it's not difficult, but to get the cooperation is difficult. That's what we are facing now. So through our awareness program, we have a certain program, especially in Peatland. In Johor, I think we have allocate some finance budget for this to done this kind of program at the Peatland community. I think only through that we can educate them to control the open burning activity. Paris. Yeah.
Thank you, Chikwan. Maybe Serena, you can add you've been working with the community in different areas in here and in Indonesia. What other measures can we encourage the community to do to prevent fire in their agricultural land in peat areas?
I think the main thing is how we get in, what is our entry point together with the community. If we recognize their effort, and even though is using their local knowledge, their traditional knowledge, at the beginning maybe they use fire to burn the residue from the agricultural land. But after that, if we ask them not to use fire to burn their residue or the leftover from the crops, basically what are the options that are available for them? So from this side, maybe through the projects or maybe through the government initiative to engage them and then to train them not to use the fire. That is the main point, that we don't want to have a burning practices. So we give them the options, whether we want to give them a straighter to do composting from their residue, or we teach them how to do the enzyme, or even that we ask them to compile the residue at one place, and then we can sort of like burning, but it burn in the machine, or burn somewhere else, not burn directly on pit area. So for Indonesia, they actually have this zero burning practice for the community, and then we not us, but they are actually existing initiative by the government, the local government, or even by the private sector themselves. So they have this Desa Makmur Tanpa Api, or they have also for the names for the programs. So they recognize the community, because they are actually the main group will get the impact from the fire or the burning, the pig burning. So is it really like is our government ready, or is there any private sector already like have some sort of incentive to be given to this community? Because under the Fire Free Alliance program, which actually formed by different stakeholders in Indonesia. So there are members from the private sector, the members from government, member from NGO, together with community, they're working together on that. So to reduce the fire, using fire for land preparation for agriculture, but then because the fire actually from started in the community land, and then they spread inside the forest reserve, or even spread inside the plantation area. So we need to, I mean, the initiative basically to minimize the chance. So get the community prepared not to have the fire, and at the same time provide them the incentive or alternative to cultivate on the land. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Serena. I've got one last question coming from Sabah Forestry Department also to Professor Aduwati. How big is the area that can be covered by one unit, one set of the IoT system? And how much does it cost per set? We realize it's still in the pilot stage, but if you can give some indication of that. And what happened if there is an area with no or limited internet connection? What is possible? I recall in your presentation you're mentioning something about the wireless transmission or other things. So what alternatives are there in areas with no normal internet service? Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Faisal. So the deployment that we have in Raja Musa, we have two sensor nodes. Technically, LoRa, which is the wireless technology that we use for long range, it is an open frequency. Anybody can use it. It's gazetted by MCCG in Malaysia, Multimedia and Communication Commissioner under KKMM. So LoRa frequency spectrum is free for all to use, provided that we do not transmit above a certain threshold of transmit power. So if we comply to that, technically, technically LoRa can transmit up until 30 kilometers, 30. But of course, when we really deploy in the on-site, we have to consider the propagation, the terrain, the transmission signal, the receive signal. So all this taken into consideration, and we have tested this in Raja Musa. We can go around 5 kilometers. We can be comfortable to have transmission of LoRa over this open access or open frequency around 5 kilometers. So we can cover that much area. But if you notice that Raja Musa is huge, quite vast. So we may need to extend the project after the pilot study to several other sensor nodes if you want to cover the whole area. So as the second question just now is on the funding, we managed to get from NICT Japan, but of course it is shared, or it is distributed among 3 countries of the project members. So, but as of the deployment of the LoRa itself, it depends on the type of sensors that we want to use. So the sensor will have its sensing capability, the piezometer or the weather station. By itself, it is a sensing mechanism, but it needs to be embedded with the communication module, all this LoRa module, and also later we need to, from the gateway, from the LoRa gateway, we need to access the mobile networks. So depending on the number of sensors, the type of parameters that we want to use, as well as the coverage area. So those are the factors that may or may not affect your expenses. Yeah, so there's no one answer for that. Depends on the design.
But if one was taking a very basic system, which was just, for example, you want to track the water level in a particular site and to send an alert when the water level drops, the peatland is drying out. So relatively simple system. Roughly how much would that cost? Order of magnitude. Is it $10,
Yeah.
100, 1,000?
Okay, so but if you're talking about, like, for example, just to push the data, like what Faisal was mentioning just now, you want to push the data to the, I don't know, maybe to your mobile phone. Yeah, you can get an alert on your WhatsApp or SMS. That can be done quite cheaply now, because LoRa is an open source frequency, a free frequency spectrum, and then the sensor itself, piezometer, and then the communication module, you can talk about thousands of ringgits. Ringgit Malaysia. But if you want to correlate the data automatically, so you need a weather station, you need other parameters of the soil condition, the soil temperature, you need more sensors to validate whether the water depth table, is it correct, related to other data, in correlation to other data, then you may need more sensors and more communication modules.
Okay.
Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Thank you very much. We have a few minutes left, so I'll just try to give a little bit of summary, and then I'm going to ask each of the panel members to give a final message to the audience. How do we move forward in terms of addressing and preventing peatland fire and haze? What are the approach? But I think just to briefly summarize, so we had the first presentation from Puan Masita from Department of Environment that described about the program that the government of Malaysia started just over 10 years ago to put in place infrastructure measures to prevent peatland fires. And those include a number of key approaches, most importantly, re-wetting the peatland by putting in blocks in the abandoned logging and other drainage canals in the peatland, raising the water table to reduce the risk of fire, and then introducing monitoring through fire towers, and also through having supplemental water for re-wetting, as well as to improve firefighting capability through tube wells. And then she also highlighted about the proposed national master plan over the next 10 years to scale those up and to get more stakeholders engaged. In our second presentation, we had from Professor Adewati. She explained about the work which has been undertaken in the ASEAN region in 3 pilot countries, in Malaysia, Indonesia, and Brunei, to establish an Internet of Things. So basically connected monitoring equipment, which would monitor various parameters in the peatland, and it would collect and collate that information and transmit that information. And based on the experience of the pilot testing, this can be scaled up to cover large areas in a more cost-effective manner. And she was just highlighting now about the free internet system called LoRa, which is a long-range internet system which can work in areas where there is no normal internet provider, and it can get the signals and collate and share the signals. Then the final presentation that we had was by Serena Liu, who was presenting about the work with the indigenous communities in the Southeast Pahang peatland landscape and how they were badly affected by the large-scale fires in the landscape, and that were driven, the root cause was the drainage of the area associated with logging and the drainage canals linked to plantations. And what we heard was that by working together with that community, they were able to take the solution into their own hand, and together with support from others, to block the drainage canal, raise the water table over more than 1,000 hectares. And what we heard and saw in the video, how there have been no fires for more than a year, and the vegetation has recovered and the landscape has improved. So I think that showed really the power of the people. We have on the one end high technology, and at the other end low technology approach with inspiring and supporting local community. So I think all of those have given very important suggestion or ideas of the way forward. I think there is not going to be one approach, which is the only approach. We need an integrated approach. We need to tackle this issue of peatland fire and haze. As we know, one of the most serious environmental problems in the ASEAN region is the persistent transboundary haze. But Malaysia, we're also very capable of creating our own local haze if we don't look after our peatlands and have proper fire prevention. So we need to bring together all the stakeholders and look what is appropriate, to whether we need infrastructure, whether we need the local community to act, whether we need the plantation company or the farmers to do something different. And then if we're successful in doing that, we need to monitor and track that, and that we need appropriate technology. So I think just to round off the panel, I'm going to ask each one of you to give a final message, 1 minute each, about what is the message you want to convey to the audience about how do we move forward and prevent peatland fire and degradation. Starting with Encik Wan. Please unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Faisal. From the Department of Environment, under this program to mitigate the open burning in, to prevent haze, because I as an officer that monitor the air quality, especially during the haze episode. What we can say that please avoid from doing the open burning. Of course, this year this a quite wet. Compared to the last year, it's quite dry. So as a department is to monitor the air quality, which is one of our mission, to make sure that the life of our people is during the COVID. Especially now, we don't want to the double impact to our life. So we want to make sure that our quality of life is in a very good condition especially during this COVID. And of course, we said the environment. We talk about of course we also we got to talk about pollution. We talk about pollution. Then we think Department of Environment or Department of everything. So we as also has a known as a enforcement department. We are doing the best we are to enforce our law under Environmental Quality Act 1974. Actually, we are in the process to revise this act because every day, time to time, our environment is keep changing with technology and everything. So our officer at the same time must know all the technical aspect, especially the environmental.
Okay, thank you very much, Wan. So just briefly, 1 minute, Professor Adiwati, what's your message about the future?
Just a simple sentence. It takes a village to raise a child, but it takes a nation to look after a peatland forest. So I hope that is especially true in Malaysia, inshallah.
Okay.
That's all.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. Serena?
Yeah, I would say let's put our hands together to value and also to rehabilitate and to conserve the precise peatland ecosystem that we have in the country. So the peat area is really like is the black jewel that we have in the country. So we should value that ecosystem. Thank you.
Okay, and finally, to see whether the audience was paying attention to any of this, we're going to have a pop quiz. We just have a very quick question that you have to answer. And I think if the secretary can share the first of the poll, we'll be sharing the poll. I can't see. So please go ahead and share the first poll. I can't do it. You. Please click on the. Can the Secretariat display the poll, and can the audience click to on the poll? It should be displayed on the top right of your screen. So let's move on to the second poll. There should be 3 questions in the poll that you should have answered. Yeah. So thank you again for coming to the event this day. We've come to the end of the session. It's 4 o'clock. There's another session about to start. So thank you again for all your participation today. And please take home the message and share to your colleagues about this. If you want to know anything more about this, you can contact Global Environment Center, the Malaysian Climate Change Group, or any of the speakers that have been on the panel today. Thank you again for your attention. Goodbye.